Hello folks, we have been firing on all cylinders with Khazan just recently, and through my own sheer determination and willpower, but mostly Neepal's work ethic and passion, I have by some miracle, Neepal, managed to scramble together some form of new concept with each new video, and fortunately, today is no different. Thanks to my usual top-notch and completely legitimate investigative skills, I stumbled across this little-known launcher named Steam. Now, despite Steam's unwavering obscurity, it does quite miraculously have a wealth of reviews from Khazan enthusiasts and unenthusiasts alike. Up till just recently, this did say positive, but of course, we can see that Khazan just recently does sit at a mixed score. To dive a little bit deeper, we can see the ratio of positive and negative reviews right here, showing a chunk of negative reviews at launch and the weeks following, followed by mostly nothing until just very recently. In roughly the past 4 days and up to the point of me making this video, Khazan has received over 500 negative reviews, which are seemingly out of nowhere. Now, I thought long and hard about how to structure this part of the video, folks, and I'll just be honest about how I personally feel about this topic. To me, it honestly feels like anything that is subject to a user score is always plagued with a particular demographic of people who just want to watch the world burn, offering nothing constructive or of any real value. Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, etc. I don't care for random user reviews all that much, outside of looking at large sample sizes like this and wondering what happened. This is due to the fact that despite a lot of potential solid feedback being left within reviews, I always find myself massively disagreeing with most negative reviews towards games I'm very familiar with. I know Khazan the game better than most do at this point, and I read an awful lot of nonsense within these reviews. I will not platform this nonsense, and I'd rather skip over the actual reviews as a whole, as I'm pointing out the significance of the review bombing, not the actual reviews themselves. But with that said, it wouldn't be fair to not at least shine a spotlight on the legitimate feedback being left just recently. The biggest I could see was regarding the recent price drop in many major regions across the world. In some places like China, Khazan is currently 50% off, and it has only been 3 months since launch. Some of these players do feel like they were duped, having paid full price not all that long ago, and I somewhat do appreciate the frustration. Games inevitably will go on sale, but 3 months in is quite questionable, and whilst I certainly feel like I've definitely had my money's worth, some folks quite clearly do not feel the same. Outside of this, there are other players who legitimately have not enjoyed their experience and list multiple reasons such as Khazan's art style, colour palette, gameplay loop, level design, specific mechanics and or features such as augmenting gear, farming bosses, shortcuts locking once completing a mission, etc. Whilst a lot of them do share one thing in common, which is they also still praise bosses and or combat on being the best part of the game. So to break this negative review chunk down, we have a portion upset with current sales prices and another portion who didn't enjoy their time playing, whilst the game has seen a small temporary boost in hype, meaning review numbers are larger right now than they typically would be anyway. So what does account for the rest of this chunk then? Well, that would be this lady right here. That's right, who would have thought that the addition of the opposite gender could possibly invoke such strong emotions? Not those emotions. Folks, I am just going to say it how it is. I've followed Khazan since before launch. I've watched the Boss Rush Mode DLC and the armor set overhaul cause all manner of issues amongst the playbase, and yet no such review bombing took place. Just recently, the game has been made more accessible. Quality of life, build variety, and essentially all of Khazan's strongest assets are at an all-time high, and yet it does receive this review bombing at exactly the same time that female Khazan, or Khazana, has been introduced to the game. Now, as I previously mentioned, additional fuel is thrown onto this fire when you factor in the usual negative review flow and the portion of mostly Chinese players that are upset with the current sale. So it's not to say that this quote-unquote review bombing is entirely down to female Khazan, but at least to some extent, it absolutely is. I have a very strong live and let live philosophy on life, so if you want to enjoy female Khazan or wind yourself up over it, by all means, you do you folks. I for one really like the addition of female Khazan. It's a simple update that has managed to instill a fair bit of hype for the game, whether positive or negative. It has managed to get players interested again. As for the review bombing, I don't have much to say. It will continue to happen for as long as reviewing continues to exist. Nothing I can say or do to affect it, and I'd rather not waste energy discussing it. I've said it a few times before, and I would likely reiterate this point throughout my time with Khazan, but I am by no means biased when it comes to the coverage and my overall attitude towards Khazan and Nepal. I cast them in a positive light because they've earned that positive light over the past 3 months, choosing to be transparent and remaining so with the community, updating the game every 2 weeks, and rolling out hotfixes every week to help stabilize, fix, add, change, and improve the entire experience into what we currently have are all the main reasons I don't have many things to say about Khazan as a whole. If and when the day arrives that these circumstances do change, you can mark my words that I won't be pulling my punches, and I'll be reporting on the bad with just as much enthusiasm as I do the good, albeit I'd prefer all things do remain positive, but news is news. As far as things stand, we have a few features outlined to be introduced within Khazan in the coming weeks or so, but beyond this, now would be the first time in 3 months that we actually know very little. I suspect with the next big update due in the next few weeks, we will likely receive some outline of the coming months, giving us some idea of what to expect moving forward. I could hazard guess after guess, but I wouldn't have predicted half of what we have received so far, so that's a game I'd rather not play. One thing is for certain, however, there is very little quality of life left to be added, and outside of additional changes Neeple want to make, we can likely assume they have a portion of the team working on something bigger in terms of DLC. I've previously discussed that Khazan absolutely has some degree of cut content. It did have an interesting development cycle, which likely led to many unused assets, and I wouldn't be too surprised if some of our most recent updates have utilized those same unused assets to at least some extent. If this is the case, and Neeple do indeed have a portion of the team taking cut content and repurposing it for future updates, such as a DLC expansion offering new missions, bosses, weapons, armor, etc., then that would essentially be best case scenario for Khazan. I could be completely wrong, and internally, Neeple could be running out of ideas. I only have the past 3 or so months to go off, and I'm naturally remaining optimistic until shown reasons not to be. Anyway, I'll be back to report on more just as soon as we have more to report on. I have a few more guides lined up for the near future, and I do of course have a range of guides and news videos on the channel already, so do feel free to stop on by and check things out. Otherwise, thanks for watching folks, and until next time, peace.